Casey's typing.
Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN, the Hub's fantasy football strategy show every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. I'm Dr. Dan Ratner, and I'm here as always with Casey, Vlad to the Bone Scheinvold, and Ross the Boss.
Hey, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss coming to you live. You guys said live from La La Land here in Los Angeles, California. And we have 60-degree weather today, Dr. Dan Ratner. I have to wear this jacket, as you see.
Oh, my God.
So,
Very
yeah,
cold.
It's freezing here. Freezing.
All right. Well, we have actual snow on the ground. It is officially winter.
I was going to say, we had snow we were in the highs in the 20s yesterday.
My girls got a snow day the other day.
It was snow day. I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that is here.
Our kids don't do snow days. Ever since the quarantine, they get virtual days.
Oh,
they still have school.
Right. Now you can't escape it no matter where you go. So, listen, we're just coming off the holiday weekend. Obviously, we didn't have this show last week because we were having Thanksgiving. But the NFL continued anyway. So let's talk about the news. I want to hear about your top headlines that you see coming out of that week. Because as we know, in the NFL, every week changes. It's so weird. Like you watch a matchup and you're like, I did not see that coming. Like, did you see Detroit losing that game? I didn't.
You saw it by the end of the second quarter.
Well, sure, but going into it. Right. So what were the big headlines?
The Lions. The big headline for me, Dr. Dan Ratner, is Aaron Rodgers. Why does he want to come back? Are the Jets making the playoffs? Is it an ego thing with him? I mean, I know Boyle is not that great of a quarterback. He's probably the worst quarterback in the league, and I'm still questioning why he's even starting because of his past.
Right.
Just horrible. I mean, horrible stat. I mean, horrible. But why is Aaron Rodgers saying, I want to be back in 2 weeks. I'm ready to go. I'm practicing. I mean, shouldn't you just chalk it up and say, listen, I'll be back next season. I'm not retiring. Hey, Albert, I want to play next season. Why is he risking to come back early and hurting himself more? Answer me the question right now, Casey Scheinvold.
We'll throw it to you, Case.
Oh, wow.
And let's say good afternoon to Albert Merrick.
Albert, as always,
good to see you.
Great to see you. Narcissism? Like a desire.
I mean, both you and Dan are doctors, and you guys are top of your field, and you guys should know this.
A desire to put himself in the headlines. I mean, look, it's. I think part of it is to, if we're looking at it from a team perspective, part of it is to say, if he can give you 2 good games at the end of the season, don't worry, Jets fans. This is what you have to look forward to next year.
Yeah, but why, Casey? They can get a better draft pick. Just tank the season. Get Marvin Harrison Jr. He's good. You can probably get him if you tank the rest of your games. I think
they don't need him. They need a.
Oh yeah, you don't need Marvin Harrison Jr.
No,
yeah,
but I mean that's not. I don't need the most. They need offensive line.
Like, I mean, I think there's a couple of factors. One is, and I guess this relates to narcissism, but I do think it's just ego. Meaning that
that's a better word.
If he manages to do this, it's kind of legendary. It would be pretty amazing. Now,
stupidity
is it smart?
more, but stupidity, I think. Not
it is stupidity. And if you look at the standings, the Jets are 4-7. They're nowhere near playoff contention.
No near. And Boyle's starting the next 2 games, which means they'll lose those 2 games.
In all likelihood, yes. I wish that Boyle had been starting when I picked the Eagles against the Jets in our survivor pool, because I would have won that. But instead, I'm out. Ross, you're still alive in that.
I have no losses. 0 losses.
No losses.
That's
incredible.
Impressive. That is impressive.
Who are you picking this week?
Guys, Casey told me to take Tennessee last week. I took Tennessee. Casey, I'm taking Tampa Bay this week. What do you think?
Ooh, I don't mind that, actually.
They're playing Carolina. Carolina just fired their coach. I know it's kind of a weird thing when the team gets rid of their coach. Sometimes they're motivated. They'll win. But I think Carolina is so bad. So bad. How bad are they? They'll lose to Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay this week. So don't worry, guys. I'll win this week.
I mean, that's a great place to be. All right, so Aaron Rodgers, definitely one of the headlines. I do think the Lions losing that game was a headline, especially the way they came out. I had a friend text me. He said, "Is Goff drunk? What is happening here?" And so, but you got to remember, there are games where teams come out that way.
But the truth is, I mean, in that game, they lost by a touchdown, but there was that freak fumble return for a touchdown, which they said wasn't a pass by Goff and wasn't incomplete. So, like, they're a freak turnover away from, even as bad as they played, still winning that game.
No, it's true. And meanwhile, the Packers aren't that bad. It's not like they're just a terrible team. here's
They're
another.
playing better. They started off horribly. They're playing better, I would say, but they're not a playoff team. Casey and I don't have them in the playoffs.
Oh no, I mean, even if they did make the playoffs, they're not a playoff team. They wouldn't go far. But is Jordan Love? What do we make of Jordan Love? And let's talk from a fantasy perspective, but also an NFL perspective. What I was saying is, it looks to me like I said this to a friend. The way that
who's his friend? I mean, I never. Who's this friend you have? His name is invisible.
No, his name is Deep Throat. We never talk about him.
Okay, he lives in Canada.
I don't actually, honestly, I don't even remember who it was. I have lots of friends, and I said lots of things
in Canada.
It was his junior high girlfriend.
But I think that the best case scenario for Jordan Love is that he's the next Jared Goff, where people started to underestimate him, and he turns out to be a pretty solid quarterback.
Well, I don't think he could be good. I mean, Jared Goff was the #1 overall pick. I don't think and was starting with the Rams his rookie season. So
fair enough. I'm not saying he's an exact comp across the board.
You just say he can have a career like Goff. I get
what to expect.
Yeah, Jordan Love to me, is a little hard to evaluate because he did sit for the first 3 years of his career. Just barely saw the snap.
He didn't talk to the first string quarterback. I mean, it was
but he didn't play either, and so
he just sat there like an idiot. But
he didn't get the baptism by fire that a lot of these younger quarterbacks are getting this day. So we have to evaluate him almost as if he's a rookie, and if he's a rookie, he's doing pretty well. If he can continue to learn and grow. The problem is he's already 25 because he's 3 years in the league.
Top 12 quarterback next season in fantasy sports? No,
not yet.
Do I pick him up as a backup in my fantasy team? Maybe, but the quarterback position is just going to improve next season because all the guys that are coming out. I just don't think Jordan Love, to me, it's just like he's not consistent. I mean, that's the whole problem.
Right, but if you're evaluating him like a rookie quarterback, that's what you would expect.
I guess.
The thing he has that a lot of other young quarterbacks don't have is Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Luke Musgrave, Aaron Jones. Like, he has skilled players all around.
Except for no running game. Aaron Jones is awful.
Well, only because he's been hurt.
A.J. Dillon is averaging 3 yards a carry.
A running back is really the easiest find in the NFL.
Saquon Barkley could be there next year at this rate.
Coming from the Giants fan too, I like that. But yes, I mean,
he has. If they can solidify an offensive line, because ever since Bakhtiari started getting hurt and they lost a couple of their interior linemen, they haven't been able to do much offensively. If they can build that up with the skilled players he has that are all young and under real reasonable contracts, he has the potential to be a top 12 quarterback.
Well, let's get back to Jordan Love in a second. I want to answer Albert Maricone's question. He said, thoughts on the Steelers' new offense. First of all, Pat Freiermuth, who is our cover guy today, he had a great game. I picked him up off the waiver wire because nobody was thinking about him.
Yeah,
he's a very underrated pickup right now. What about this Steelers' new offense? What do you guys make of that comment?
Well, it can't be worse. I mean, Matt Canada had divided. Matt Canada might be a very good coordinator, but he didn't develop an offense or devise.
No, he's not a good coordinator.
Play calling that Kenny Pickett and those guys could actually execute. So anything that gets them a little quicker and more vertical is going to be good. Deontay Johnson ended up getting 8 targets, which was many more than he was getting in the past. I think if they can develop that, Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris were both successful the first week under the different coordinator. And any of that being good only makes George Pickens that much better as the deep threat, because all of a sudden, like, defenses have to look into the backfield. If Freiermuth is getting 10 targets or 10 catches for 100 and some odd yards, like, it's a more dynamic. The first week was more dynamic. We'll see what this week.
And listen, I think as an organization, they needed to try that, because if you're going to find out if Kenny Pickett's any good at all, you got to go for it now. And in some ways, it's the same thing with Jordan Love. It's like, so Ross, I get you about the consistency with Jordan Love and with Kenny Pickett for that matter. But here's what I would rather see. I'd rather see inconsistent with some good play than consistently bad.
I mean, they got to get Pickens the ball in Pittsburgh if they want to win consistently or just make the playoffs.
They need a top receiver.
Pickens has to come out. I mean, Pickens is not getting the targets at all. And
right, but if Deontay Johnson gets more targets in that possession role, if Jalen Warren and Najee Harris start both being effective, all of a sudden their play action game is better. That opens things up for Pickens, right? That gives
but they're not throwing the ball. I watched the Bengals Pittsburgh game last weekend.
He's the only guy.
And Pickens isn't targeted.
He and Rashid Shaheed are like the two guys who
I love that name, Rashid.
Hoping
Shaheed.
They get 3 catches, because in 3 catches they can get you 85 yards and a touchdown.
Oh yeah, those guys are faster than Dr. Dan Ratner, a lot faster.
Well, yes, I mean faster. It's like saying they're faster than a rock moving slowly across the ground. I mean,
a rock. I was going to say turtle, but rock's a good one.
Flat ground.
I had to slow it down from turtle.
A glacier.
A glacier, exactly. I gotta ask this question: how are the Colts 6-5? How is this happening?
The mustache.
I love Gardner, guys. I love Gardner Minshew.
I do love him.
I mean, that guy. He just puts that every week. He just puts his body out there.
Speaking of big news, though, you brought up the Colts. Jonathan
Taylor's going
to miss at least the next 4 weeks with surgery. So Zach Moss.
Can I just tell you my fantasy team with you bozos and I'll just tell you who's on the IR for my team.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Let me just, Casey, give me 1 second. Let me just pull it up. And
okay,
don't go ballistic on me.
But suddenly, I think Zach Moss could be a top 10 running back.
Well, I mean, he started out great, then he fizzled. But
he didn't fizzle. They benched him.
Well,
he just wasn't playing.
So these are my IR guys. Are you guys ready? Kirk Cousins, Darren Waller, Mike Williams, Nick Chubb, Darren Cox, Jason Taylor, all on my IR.
Jonathan Taylor.
I had Chubb. Did you pick up Chubb?
I drafted Chubb, you idiot.
No.
Are you talking
the
the sleeper?
I'm talking the sleeper league.
Oh, the sleeper league.
The sleeper league.
Dynasty. That's dynasty.
Well, I'm just telling my dynasty. I'm venting my dynasty league. Mike Williams, Chubb, Taylor, all on my IR with Darren Waller. I understand. Casey and I discussed it. Thanks, Case. And
the tiniest violin.
And Kirk Cousins. I mean, it's just like another.
You have definitely gotten hurt.
You want some cheese with that wine?
It's horrible. But yeah, Jonathan, big news. I mean, he came to LA, got his thumb operated on this week. I didn't bump into him anywhere, but he's going to be in LA for a while. But I mean, that's huge news. I mean,
I'm guaranteeing you in the last 3 or 4 weeks in redraft leagues, a lot of those Zach Moss owners ditched him. So,
I mean, he was getting 3 carries a game, Casey Scheinfeld.
Like,
of course.
You could get him, if you got him off your waiver wire, that's like a coup at this point.
Listen, when you see a player performing like that, you should be careful to put them back on your wire, because if they can perform like that when they're in, probably worth a hold if you can. It's
probably because of all the bye weeks, and you got to pick up players to start.
For sure. I mean, there's plenty of people who cut Zach Moss because they had to, and they had no real reason to consider that he was going to be good. But he was showing himself to be one of those really good handcuffs at this point.
Yeah, I mean, 6 teams are on bye weeks this week, guys. 6 teams.
I know, and this late in the season.
Yeah, and it's just like, why after Thanksgiving are they doing bye weeks, Casey Scheinfeld? It's stupidity.
Yeah, well, they added a
week. Next week, there's 2 teams on bye weeks.
Yep. Okay, we've got a question coming in from Blurpy.
Casey Scheinfeld doesn't make any sense.
It does not make any sense. Blurpy says, Taysom Hill or Ferguson, full PPR, projected to lose by 14. He has Dak playing in his lineup, so just wanted to give that context. Could go with the ceiling play with Hill. By the way, I love context. It's really helpful for answering questions. If you're thinking about playing Ferguson and he has Dak, a touchdown to Ferguson really neutralizes Dak. So that's part of the context that he's talking about. Guys, who would you play, Taysom Hill or Ferguson in this context?
Wow. So Dallas is tonight against Seattle. Going by Ross's play the guy who's playing prime time on national TV, that gives a little...
Yes, but Ross also says that Thursday games are complete slop, which he's right.
Yeah, but this week doesn't count as slop. You know why? Because both teams played on Thanksgiving, and they have 7 days to prepare. So both teams
That's huge.
It's a full week. It's a full
Dak
week.
Prescott has been the best quarterback in football.
He really, I mean, he's having an unbelievable great. Yeah, he's having a great year.
I'd go Ferguson there.
I'd go Ferguson. I don't like. Yeah. I don't like New Orleans against Detroit coming off a loss. I'm not a Derek Carr guy. Derek Carr is notorious for 300 yards passing with 0 touchdowns. So unless Taysom Hill's going to do it himself from the quarterback position or the wildcat position.
Okay, but to play devil's advocate, if you're way behind, Taysom Hill is the one player in that context that could explode.
He's an X factor. He really is, guys.
He could go for 0, or he could go for 30.
30.
But but Jake Ferguson could go for 60 and 2 touchdowns. Oh, and he has Pollard, by the way. So he could take away like 3 of Dak Prescott's touchdowns by playing Ferguson and Pollard.
Yeah, and he said I also have Pollard, and then he said just trying to maximize points. I do think the
lottery ticket is Hill.
Let me just tell you guys something about the Cowboys and playing at home this season. They score points, guys. They have scored over 30 points almost every game at home this season.
So you would go Ferguson.
Monster. I would go Ferguson. I think he'll have a touchdown. I think he'll have 60, 70 yards. And for some reason, Dallas at home are just an offensive machine, but you take them out of their environment, they're not that great. But I do like Dak. I hate to say it, but Dak Prescott's having a great season. And Pollard is finally putting together a nice little streak of touchdowns.
Why do you hate to see that?
As a Giants fan,
I'm not a Cowboy fan. I hate Cowboys.
I don't like the Cowboys.
As a Giants fan, obviously this has been a difficult season for me. But one thing I can always
a lot of therapy.
The Schadenfreude of Dallas fans is something that I'll enjoy because they'll go in as a 5 seed, I think, probably or 4 seed because at 5 because they can't.
Eagles 1. They can't be
1.
Can't be 2, 3, or 4. You're 100%.
So they'll host a playoff game and lose because that is the life of a Dallas Cowboys fan. Awesome regular season, terrible playoff performance. And so that's the only thing I take solace in at this point.
Take Ferguson. Let's spin the wheel.
That is the long version of take Ferguson and hope it isn't turd Ferguson. I had to say a turd Ferguson.
Oh, turd Ferguson.
No, they're going to score points tonight. I know these Thursday and Monday night games have been all on the under, but this week's a little different because each team had 7 days to prepare, and I think we'll see a trend going up.
His name is not Turd Ferguson this week. Okay, Nino Pena says, should I play it safe and keep Gibbs in or put Warren in against the Cardinals instead? You should play it safe and play Gibbs. You guys can answer, but I'm immediately Gibbs on that one.
No, Gibbs playing New Orleans, right? Yeah, so you play Gibbs.
Gibbs playing anyone over Warren.
Warren has been pretty darn dynamic, and Arizona is not exactly a good defense.
I know, but he wasn't last week. Najee Harris showed plenty of signs of life.
He got hands on. Yeah, they shared.
Gibbs is a potential monster with a great floor. I think.
I'm not disagreeing that it's Gibbs,
again.
but I don't think Warren against Arizona is a bad play.
It's not bad,
and it's a totally reasonable question. I just think Gibbs all the way.
Gibbs. Casey loves Gibbs too.
All right, what other surprises from this last week? There was a great game between the Bills and the Eagles. And I know there was a lot of controversy about how that ended.
A great game. Guys, did you see that field goal that guy kicked at the end? It was like a shot put. It was like so straight and didn't have any height, and it made the 50. And then rain.
That's just like mine. When I kick, it has no height at all.
No height. Tied it up. Went to overtime. Hurts scored the game-winning touchdown, and the Eagles showed why. I think the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl this year. Casey Scheinfeld. I would be celebrating.
I lost to Dan by 1/10 of a point.
I pointed that out.
All because Jake Elliott hit a 60-yard field goal as time expired. If he doesn't hit that field goal, I win the game.
Yeah, but how there's no kickers in our league. How does that work?
Because it allowed Josh Allen a possession in overtime, and he only needed to get 0.2 of a point.
Got it. Understood. I understand. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Case.
I was up by 0.2 of a point, or by 1.5 points going into overtime.
This is the nature of fantasy sports. And
0.1 of a point. And I was like doing the math. I said, Casey, I'll try to figure out a way you can win this, and I couldn't do it.
Fantasy sports is so weird. Not only that, but I actually accidentally, this is embarrassing, but I accidentally played T. Higgins when I should have known he was out.
I know he did.
He's playing this week.
And he is playing this week, but I shouldn't have played him last week, and I ended up winning by it's just there's no.
But it was great. It wasn't great for Casey. I felt for Casey. Casey, my condolences.
You're over it.
By the way, I just want to agree with Ross on that I think the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. They were my call going in.
They were.
They're a very complete team.
They're very complete. They play the Niners this week. We can talk about it a little bit. The Niners are a favorite at Philadelphia, 3-point favorite, which is crazy. But
I understand that.
Casey's a really well-known gambler in this world. I mean, Casey, why are the Eagles underdogs at home with a better record and with it? They are banged up. The thing about the Eagles, they're missing their tight end. They're missing some key defensive player like Fletcher. Maybe
Their
that's why.
Secondary has been an absolute sieve.
Okay, I mean, there you go.
I think that's what it boils down to.
I still think that's kind of crazy. I mean, the 49ers are really good, but it's in Philadelphia, and the Eagles are 10-1.
Yep.
And the one game they lost, of course, was damaging to my survivor pool. Of course. What about Ross? How has it been being a Bengals fan?
Well, you see my little thing here. So my daughter got me that when she went to the Bengal game last couple weeks ago, and she came home for Thanksgiving. So the season's over. I mean, honestly, I just gave up.
Once Burrow went down.
I mean, Burrow's done. I know Browning. I know he was good in college. I watched him play at Washington. I get it, but to the Bengals, for them to win, they need Burrow. I mean, they're not going to win with the backup.
In today's NFL, you can potentially win without a starter like Burrow. But if you have a starter like Burrow and then you're downgrading from that, you're not built to win in those ways.
No, the season's over. I mean, that our division is so tough. And Dan, you being an ex-Cleveland Brown fan and supporter,
accepted it.
Yeah.
You finally accepted it.
You know, living in Cleveland, how hard that division is with Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Cleveland. I mean, it's a tough division.
It is a tough division, but the thing is, people used to say it was tough, but the Browns were terrible the whole time. Now it's tough, and the Browns are actually pretty good, at least with their defense. So it's even tougher than it used to be. With the Bengals down this year, it's probably even.
I mean,
I want to see Joe Flacco.
I think
I want him as a cover guy this week.
I think he's a great fit for their team because they just need somebody to manage the game.
I guess. I mean, he hasn't played football in how many years? I mean, might as well dig up somebody else, Brett Favre, to play. I mean, get somebody that can run. Joe Flacco can barely take 2 steps. I mean,
they just need him to manage the game. Okay, Blurpy has a question. Would you bench any of Pollard, Etienne, Henry, or White? I assume Rashad White.
Oh yeah, ASU,
or Moss, full PPR.
Ooh.
Okay.
Well, let's discuss it. So tonight, Pollard, he for sure starts. Etienne is banged up. He's questionable.
Has been terrible against the run.
Yeah. So Pollard, we all agree. Etienne is questionable. So I don't. I mean, if he plays, who does Jacksonville play this week? Their offense.
If Etienne plays, you play him.
I mean, always. Yeah. And Derrick Henry, the past couple of games,
Jacksonville plays your Cincinnati Bengals Monday night. That's the only issue with Etienne is if he's injured,
he's questionable.
If he is, though, but you have to make the decision Sunday.
Is he going to play that much?
I wouldn't bench Derrick Henry. I think he's playing good football right now, Casey. I know you're not a fan.
I'm not a fan.
But you know what? He's getting volume. He's getting yards. He's getting touchdowns, and he's running. He's running hard.
I thought you said he's getting Valium. I was like, well, he's going to be nice and relaxed then.
I would probably bench White. I don't know.
In full PPR, I would.
That's true. He's getting all
targets.
He is.
Listen, honestly, if I don't
know. I guess Moss.
If I'm benching any of them in a PPR, it's Derrick Henry.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't bench Derrick Henry
because I'm
touchdown fan.
I don't. It could be a Tajay Spears day.
I agree with you both. I don't bench any of them. But if I were going to bench anybody, it would be Henry, just because of the full PPR.
Okay, I would bench Moss. Do what you're doing. Good.
Yeah. Okay. Blurby said this is my toughest decision other than the tight end one. I think sit Moss. You don't know what you're getting yet with their White, especially in full PPR.
And I think Blurpy, one of the things, I mean, you're stressing a lot about your roster, and I get it. We obsess and stress about ours too. When do your playoffs start, and how much does this game affect your standing?
It's a really good question.
If you're
most playoffs start
at Week 14 is a lot of playoffs.
Most playoffs start December 12th.
Yeah, and so if you're going to be the number 2 seed, whether you win or lose this game, or you're out of the playoffs, no matter what, play the guys you want to root for.
So wait, which week are we now in?
This is 13.
We're in 13, right?
Lucky 13.
Most playoffs we think are going to start in 2 weeks.
Either 14 or 15.
14 or 15. Yeah, because it used to always be 14, 15, and 16 because you wanted nothing to do with week 7.
And there's 18 weeks, right? Am I insane?
Oh, here we go. He said,
all right.
Moss had 33 points against the Titans earlier this year. He did. It was a monster of a game.
I'm done if I lose.
Okay. Oh, I'm done if I lose.
This is
okay. So do this. Wait till Friday and see where if ETN practices, then for sure start him. If he doesn't practice,
and he has an extra day to get healthy because they're the
Monday night but game. If he doesn't practice Friday, usually they don't play. Casey,
who do the Titans play, guys?
The Titans play Indianapolis. It's going to be Derrick Henry against Zach Moss.
I got to look up what has Derrick Henry's numbers, especially in the passing game, been. I know he had a great game last week with touchdowns, but how did he do I mean, he doesn't.
He got like 3. I mean, I watched a little of it. He got like 3 targets, I think. You can look it up. He's not a guy that gets.
He never gets targets. Honestly, I would sit Henry and play Moss.
Wow.
If Taylor is definitely not playing, which sounds like is the case,
he's not playing.
And if you're expecting a shootout,
then I think you play Moss and you sit Henry. Honestly,
wow.
Listen, Henry, in the last. I mean, look, he can be a monster. He can score a lot of touchdowns, but he also can lay a goose egg. And if you need a win, I don't know. I don't want to advise you wrong here, Blurpy, but
no, I'll advise you wrong. I was
willing to do it.
I would wait till Friday and see where we're at with Travis Etienne, and if he's not practicing,
I think that's right.
Moss.
I think that's right.
Especially if this game means that much, because
because you need at least a floor. If you're not sure somebody's going to play, a 0 is
I mean, and Etienne can the first play of the game he can get hurt again. So there you go.
Yeah, but I really like Moss as a play.
I do too. I just for some reason I have a soft spot for Derrick Henry on my.
I 100% do as well in general. I'm just saying in this specific instance, especially in PPR.
It's tough, but sometimes you got to go with your heart.
So we all have to admit our bias, because I'm not I think a Henry.
You hate Travis Henry.
I don't hate
this guy. You hate
Derrick Henry at all.
You like John Henry.
I'm an Alabama guy. You're talking an Alabama guy. I'm never going to dislike him.
He thinks you hate Derrick Henry so much he called him Travis Henry, who was a player. He back in the Steve Slayton era.
No more pick for Dan Ratner in the 90s.
I just love watching Ross's face when I talk about this.
I had to look the guy up. That's how much I have no idea who he is.
All right, so listen, people are desperate to know who to pick up, and we didn't get to have our waiver wire show this week. So
no, somebody was in court.
I
apologize.
Hey, listen, you got to do your job. But I want to know, who are the pickups this week? Who are some of the surprise pickups that maybe they're still hanging around off waivers? Maybe people are being slow. You have to remember, at this point in the season, there's going to be a lot of teams that are checked out, and that means that you can get somebody. That's how I got Freiermuth in our MFSN league.
Well, somebody that you brought up, Moss, was below 60%. And I picked him up in 2 leagues over on Tuesday night. He was dropped, and I picked him up. And
how many leagues are you in, Ross? These are not in our leagues.
About 9.
All right, that's good.
About 9, but it's just amazing. I mean, people probably, I don't know, give or take. The problem is people invite me for the past few years, and I just don't have the heart to leave the league, so I just stay in and
just stay right.
And then I just oversaturate myself with all this stuff, and there you go.
And that's why he knows so much.
There's a couple. I got to a point where there were a couple leagues where I was coming in last place just because I never made a roster move, because I didn't actually think about them.
Right.
So I wouldn't even set my lineup. That's when I realized I'm oversaturated.
No, it's really when you're not thinking about it. In case I know that you bowed out of our basketball league, probably for that reason.
Casey's not a basketball guy,
but I find it, even though I am a basketball guy, I forget to set that lineup. So you gotta be on a rotation, and this is something that people don't really talk about in fantasy sports very much. It's work, actually.
It's a
in
grind.
a way. I mean, it's fun, but you got to remember, when is waiver wire? When are the games? This is why I ended up starting T. Higgins in a game where I already knew he was out. I just didn't know I hadn't changed it.
Yeah.
And so you got to be careful how many leagues you sign up for to see what you can manage. I mean, obviously there's a lot of people who are obsessed with this stuff, and they'll keep working at it. But so waiver wire pickups, who would you have recommended this week?
Well, obviously
Moss,
our cover boy,
obvious, right?
Pat Freiermuth. He was a great fantasy asset last year. He was dead for the first 10 to 12 weeks of this year. And with this new offense, hopefully he's going to be more productive. And given the dearth of options for tight end, he could immediately become a top 5 tight end and lead you towards success. Josh Downs is only 60% owned, which fascinates me still. And
yeah, that's crazy
in Indianapolis. I don't understand that one quite fully. Rashid Shaheed, I would have named, but he didn't practice today because he's not healthy. So that drops him down. And then you have, the Green Bay receivers, Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs, have both been really good, and they're both under 60% owned.
Now I have Reed on my list of players you should pick up.
Green Bay is playing Kansas City, so in Green Bay, so it's going to be a shootout type.
They're going to be behind.
Yeah.
I mean, I do want to say Downs should not be 40% rostered, but at the same time, he doesn't have a lot of receptions, and he has 8 receptions in 4 weeks, and one of them is a bye week, so that's part of why. He still should be rostered, though. If you look at his numbers from the past, 100%.
So let me go over my list real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So bye weeks, I'll just go over the teams that have bye weeks because it's a lot of talent's not playing this week, guys. And that's
Bills
why
are out.
It's the Bills, the Ravens, the Bears, the Raiders, the Vikings, and Casey Scheinfeld can actually see his family this week. And the Giants are
the Giants have had a bye week all year.
Yeah, it's true. But
From a fantasy perspective,
DeVito's not playing bad, guys. I mean, in all seriousness,
no, he's underrated.
Well, look, they won a game with 10 points.
Yeah.
So let's pump the brakes
on
touchdowns.
He's throwing touchdowns.
I don't think Ross is saying he's the second coming. I'm just
but he's holding his own. He's not, I know he's no Dan Marino, but he's doing okay. Not bad for an Italian guy. It's from New Jersey. So Gardner Minshew, I like a lot. He's still under 6 for some reason. People are picking him up. I don't think he's going to hurt. If you have a quarterback that's not playing this week, you need a quarterback. Gardner Minshew is a great pickup. He's on top of my list of guys that you should pick up.
Baker Mayfield.
Russell Wilson, Jordan Love, and Baker Mayfield are all under 50%. So all 3 of those guys are good. Zach Moss, we talked about. Rashawn Johnson, he's the running back of the Bears. I watched that horrible game. NFL, please, no more Bear games on prime time. I beg you. I beg. I mean, these games are horrible. I mean, it was horrible. But Rashawn Johnson, he is getting the ball, Casey Scheinfeld, and he's from the University of Texas. And when he was there, he was the backup for Bijan. I mean, he was the backup there.
By the way, I need to make a correction of myself. I don't know how I missed this, but it looks like Downs is actually rostered in 60%. I thought it was 40%.
Well, close to 60. Well, 59.8.
We said he's free in 40% of leagues.
Yeah.
Oh no, but I actually read it with my eyes as 40%.
Oh.
So
okay, so
I apologize for my internal mistake.
So Achon for Devon Achon, has that how you say, Casey, the running back from Miami?
Sure.
Achon. He is questionable again. So Jeff Wilson Jr., I said Jr., Casey Scheinfeld, he could be a good pickup just because he did get the ball a lot last week for the Dolphins.
Between the tackle kind of runner.
Yeah.
But let's also say how good Mostert has been. I mean that.
And let's be honest, they're going against Washington, which hasn't exactly been a stalwart defense.
No, I like what you're saying.
And they got rid of their best 2 tackles. I mean, that's what Washington did.
Sweat.
The Sweat's gone. I want to say a name that Casey loved last week, Curtis Samuel of the Washington. I'm not going to say the R word. Commanders. He actually he's under 60% still. I like him.
He's under 40%.
He's 28. Jordan Reed, we talked about somebody tonight. I think is going to have a huge game for the Cowboys, and he's available in a lot of leagues. Is Brandon Cooks? For some reason, Seattle loves covering the number 1 receiver really well, who we all know that's CeeDee Lamb. The second receiver is Cooks, and he's had 100-yard games this season, guys.
I mean, I'd be glad.
He'll do it again. How about that, Casey Scheinfeld? Another 100-yard game.
Let me throw out another name. I mean, I don't know what his health status is because he is questionable, but Noah Brown looks like he could come back.
Casey hates Noah Brown.
I know he does, and I know they have a crowded. I know they have a crowded wide receiver.
Hold on.
Setup.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Lee Corso.
I don't want the number 3 or potentially number 4 wide receiver.
You don't know that he is the number 3 or 4.
He is. Nico Collins and Tank Dell are the 1 and 2, and then what's his name? Robert Trees. Robert Woods is the 3. And then Dalton Schultz is in the tight end mix. There's only so much. I mean, CJ Stroud has been a revelation at quarterback and
MVP though.
Incredibly fantasy relevant. Noah Brown is going to get maybe 50% of the route share and maybe 5 to 10% of the targets.
True or false? Last year you badmouthed Noah Brown when he was on the Cowboys. Just answer yes or no. You're no. Go. You didn't badmouth. Greg, can you please play the tape of last year? Casey badmouthed
him.
Oh. Great play.
I said I didn't think he was going to be as strong fantasy as he was for those 4 weeks that he was relevant.
Okay, fine.
I think Noah Brown will be good for at least 70 yards this week. And
Ooh, 70 yards.
Ooh, I'll take that bet.
Okay.
I'm going to say less than 50.
Now, we're not even talking about the touchdown. Okay, you're saying less than 50? I'll take above 50 on Noah Brown any day.
Right. Love this. Okay,
only if he plays.
Dinner at the most expensive restaurant in Casey. What city you live in?
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Very, very a lot of history there. Actually,
listen, there's plenty of expensive restaurants anywhere.
Every restaurant is expensive today.
McDonald's is. I took my kids.
I went to Five Guys and got my son a cheeseburger and fries for $22.
Like, that's crazy. But I did.
McDonald's is like $12 for a Happy Meal. It's crazy.
How much does I just have to ask this question? How much does a McRib sell for? Because I think you should pay me.
How much for one rib?
I think you should pay me to eat a McRib. I mean, rib. I'm not going to buy a McRib.
Got change for $100.
That
McRibs are very
disgusting.
I don't know, but it's back for a limited time. I thought they retired it. For some reason, they brought it back.
It's like a horror movie.
But people love the McRib. I don't know what to tell you guys.
My God.
Let's talk defenses. We didn't do the Tuesday show, so I'm going to say a defense, guys, and you guys say yay or nay.
Okay.
And I stream defenses. So does Casey. And Dan, you do that too. I know that. So usually. The Buccaneers are playing the Carolina 1-win team Panthers. What do you think about starting the Buccaneers defense?
I'm totally comfortable streaming that.
I'm not a huge fan of it.
Why?
You think Carolina's going to score points?
I think Carolina, they just fired their head coach. They're going to have Christ, Las Vegas, when they fired McDaniels, came out and put up like 30-some points the next week. And
different.
That's true, but I think it's different for multiple reasons. One of them is I think they were so glad to be rid of McDaniel.
Yeah, I think they were celebrating. I mean, they hated McDaniel. I don't know.
The best defense.
I don't think Carolina's going to be.
Okay, here's another one, Casey. Ready?
Yeah,
the Falcons are at the Jets, and the Jets have Danny Boyle as their quarterback. Not Peter Boyle, the actor, but Danny Boyle is playing quarterback who is horrible. Do you like that start for the Falcons?
Yes, I like Atlanta.
Dan.
And I actually don't love that start because they're on the road. I mean, it's not terrible.
On the road.
They're on the road, and they're not that good of a defense. And I just think that is a trap kind of game. I'd much rather play Tampa Bay.
It's a trap.
Carolina. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Jaguars strikes again.
Okay, I love the quote. The Jaguars.
By the way, it's not Danny Boyle. It's Tim Boyle.
Tim Boyle. Danny Boyle's an actor too, isn't he?
No, Danny Boyle, I believe, is a director. I think he directed Slumdog Millionaire and many other things. He's an Oscar-winning director.
The Jaguars are at home against the Bengals.
I love all the mix-up of names that happen on the show.
I like Jacksonville. They're my top defense this weekend.
Yeah, I hit a nerve. I like that. Casey Scheinfeld loves Jacksonville. They're available.
I'm 100% in on that.
In 70% of the leagues, you can pick up Jacksonville's defense. So I suggest you guys pick that up. The Rams are at home against Cleveland, which if Dan was a fan, he'd be out here staying at my house, but he's not a fan of the Browns anymore. He's not coming here.
No,
see, I prefer the other Los Angeles team this weekend.
The Chargers. They're next. They're Chargers,
New England,
are at New England
more
though.
Than 7 points against the Giants.
I definitely like playing against New England. But
do you want to hear something about New England? I mean, they're not actually. Jones is not even in the first team like reps, like at practice. He's not even practicing with the first team.
Fully benched. Is that what
fully benched? They have Malik Cunningham, and Zapp as their two starters. They don't know which one's starting, but Jones is out. He's an Alabama guy, Casey. I'm sorry, he's gone. So
you got to deal with Chris Atwater on the Mac Jones.
We haven't seen Chris Atwater today. I think it might relate to Mac Jones. He went into hiding.
And he has a huge game. Bama. They play Georgia this weekend. I'm sure he'll be watching the television, guaranteed, unless he's at the game.
But Ross, of the defenses you mentioned, Jacksonville would be my number one pick.
Okay.
Cincinnati's way down. But I like Tampa Bay, Carolina. A lot of times I go for that home team. You play on the road, even with the survivor picks. I should have known not to take Philadelphia. In fact, I
tried to talk you out of it. I really did.
I don't actually believe we had that conversation, but I love.
I thought on there you told me I told you maybe it was Casey.
It's entirely possible. You might have. And listen, I wish you had talked me out of it. Okay, we got a question coming in from Cruz Garcia. McBride or Ferguson this week? It's another tight end question. McBride would be my guy, but I'm worried about the injury report, and Ferg plays tonight. Okay, so I'm assuming you only have these two tight ends. So this is where that Thursday game can sometimes factor in, because you're like, I can get my guy in now. What's the latest, guys, on McBride? Do you have any intel on that?
Questionable. I won't know anything more till Friday, but Ferguson, 7 days to prepare. Dak Prescott at home, throwing touchdown passes. I don't guarantee anything. I would go Ferguson over Danny McBride any day.
Yeah,
I don't love the Steelers matchup either.
Calling everybody
Danny
today.
I don't love the Steelers matchup either. I mean, that defense can be pretty dynamic when it wants to be. I don't know the numbers for them against opposing tight ends, but I want a piece of anybody Dak Prescott can throw the ball to right now.
Especially Brandon Cooks. He's going to have a huge game. Brandon Cooks, you heard it from me first.
Also, I do want to say I'm not trying to douse the fire on Trey McBride. I think he is for real. I think he is a good player, but he mostly had 2 great games.
And I don't know if you saw this, but J.J. Watt just broke the news that Zach Ertz has asked for his release so he could sign with a contender.
Ooh.
Meaning he's not getting much love in Arizona right now.
Yeah.
No, maybe he'll go back to Philly. What do you guys think?
Ooh.
That would be interesting. So if it was me, I'm going Ferguson, although if McBride is healthy, it's certainly not a terrible play.
No, Murray's playing great too. Murray's playing. I mean, hats off to Murray. I mean,
and listen, if they were both healthy, like clearly, I would probably play McBride. But given the situation, I have no problem playing Ferguson. Like right now,
yeah, like a good play. In one league, I mean, they're good problems to have, but I have Ferguson and Laporta.
Who's you starting?
That's a very good problem to have.
Right now, I'm starting Laporta against New Orleans.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Ferguson is great, but Laporta is different. He's a different animal as far as I'm concerned.
No, he's a second tier guy.
I mean, ironically, in our one sleeper league, I have McBride, Laporta, and Pitts. And Pitts ends up riding my bench every week. And he's the one I spent a first-round pick in Dynasty for.
Well, yeah, he's one of the biggest flops in fantasy football. Again, is congratulations, Kyle Pitts.
Congratulations, crazy. Arthur Smith.
Let me ask you this. I know the Ravens are on bye this week, so it's not a huge thing. But if you're in a good position and you want to scoop up players, this can happen with defenses too. Is Isaiah Likely a good pickup right now?
I have him in our sleeper league, and I think in a dynasty
league, to have a tight end in a tight end friendly offense that's going to be on the field for 60 or 70% of the time. You obviously you want him on your roster. I don't love it. I'd rather see, I don't want to make that call in week 14.
Sure.
Whether I'm going to play Isaiah Likely because your playoffs might be starting. If it was week 6, 7, 8, I'd say, yeah, plug him in there, see what he can do.
But I will say this. I think people should take advantage of the buys, especially if you are in playoff position. Go to the Josh Allen guy. Who's got Josh Allen, and see if you can pry him loose. Maybe they need a win now, and you go ahead and go after him. I'd go after Justin Jefferson as well. And anybody who is on bye right now, even Justin Fields, if you don't have a great quarterback, but you are in a decent position, which seems like an unlikely thing to both happen, but if it is the case, go for it. Who else would you guys target in a bye week sort of way?
Like this week?
Yeah, I mean, this is the last time they're on bye. This is you can scoop somebody up.
I mean, let's just look at it. I mean, the Buffalo. I like Kincaid for Buffalo. I don't know what Knox.
Diggs obviously is another guy to target.
Diggs. I mean, he's not done anything the past 3 weeks or 4 weeks. He's been invisible. He's been invisible.
Right. So you go to a Stephon Diggs roster and you take a look at him and make an offer. He hasn't done that much. I mean, look, his last week, though, 11 targets, 6 catches, 74 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah.
I got no problem with Stephon.
Right, but if you go the week before that and week before that, it's not too good.
But I think true. James Cook is somebody you could look at if you're looking at that. Baltimore, you're looking at Lamar Jackson or Zay Flowers.
How about that Mitchell? How about Mitchell for Baltimore?
I wondered about Mitchell.
Keaton Mitchell. Or even
I'm not in on Zay Flowers, I have to say. The Ravens just do not do it with their wide receivers.
Saquon Barkley, TJ Hawkinson.
Hawkinson, if you can get him, great.
Zay Flowers had a pretty big game last week. I'm impressed. I think
Odell Beckham has shown a little pizzazz the last few weeks.
He's getting targets, Casey. Odell is definitely getting targets, and he's somebody that I picked up in a couple leagues last week.
If you can scoop him up, do it now because he'll be injured next week. I'm just gonna
say. Yeah,
right.
I don't wish it on him, but I don't know. That's just what happens.
He's just
guys. Anything else to add before we wrap up for today? People are turning into these last weeks. They got to get a win. Anything you'd add in terms of strategy, what to pay attention to, and if there's nothing, there's nothing. But I'm not meaning to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, I think we're getting to the stage of the NFL season where weather becomes an issue. Right? Like you're looking at a team playing Sunday night in Green Bay. What's the weather going to be like?
Is it frozen, tundra,
sub-zero with wind?
Lambeau
Is it going to be, so all of a sudden that becomes a factor, which you don't have to consider necessarily in August or September.
And a lot of leagues play with kickers. You have to factor in weather when it comes to kickers as well.
Frickin' Jake Elliott hit a 60-yarder in the rain.
I love that.
Expired. Not that I'm bitter.
He's not upset about that.
You're bitter. I mean, that's totally. If I say Jake Elliott for the next 6 months, that's definitely like
it's a trigger.
If Justin Fields is your number one quarterback, but he has 2 home games in the playoffs, and it's going to be windy Chicago in sub-zero weather, you might want to see if you can.
But just to play devil's advocate just a little bit. Don't make your main decisions based on weather.
No, but what I did this week, I looked at. I'm in a few leagues where I already clinched the playoff spot, so I know I'm playing in the playoffs. Okay,
he loves to brag. I'm kidding.
And I know I'm in there, so I'm looking now at guys who I can pick up that have easy games during playoff weeks. And I have like one league. I have 2 quarterbacks. I have the quarterback for the Chargers, and I have Tua for Miami. Herbert and Tua, and I flip flop all the time. Whoever has a better matchup, I start. But I've been looking at the matchups, and they don't have great matchups during playoff weeks. So I'm considering picking maybe Minshew or picking up another quarterback that has an easy game that week during playoffs. So
wow, that would be gutsy, I think, to play.
I mean, but you gotta take chances like that, or you're not going to win. I'm telling you.
You have to take chances like that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just giving you credit.
I mean, I don't trust Miami playing in the rain or snow because they're from Miami. I just don't trust it.
Obviously, the weather is not going to impact whether you play your studs, right? You're not going to bench Josh Allen for Gardner Minshew because it's right? But
I don't know.
But if you're talking like Tank Dell in the dome against Denver, or I don't know, pick somebody who's going to be right around him, Puka Nacua against Cleveland, or Calvin Ridley against Cincinnati outdoors, where the weather's supposed to be bad, then all of a sudden you're saying, I might take the indoor guy, even if he's maybe a tick below.
These are just there's some of the hardest calls.
It's hard. I've got burned many times not taking the right guy during playoffs. We all have. I mean, you
can get burned in either direction. You can get burned because you
tough.
had to play your studs, and then they didn't play.
But just prepare. All I'm saying is just prepare. If you're in the playoffs, prepare for those playoff weeks now. Don't wait till the week of the playoff game.
Especially if you're already in.
Because every idiot's going to try to get that player to play on their team.
At the same time, don't overthink it.
Sometimes don't. Yeah, that's true.
Go with the horses that got you there.
That's I'd rather lose that way if I'm going to lose. Okay, guys, go ahead, Ross. What were we going to say?
Have you decided what team are the Bills your team, or who's your team that you're going to?
I have dismantled the Bills this year, and I apologize to all Buffalo fans simply by having this shirt here. I'll get a shirt.
That team. You hex that.
But don't worry, Bills fans. I'm going to release.
Don't worry, Giants fans. I'm sending him an Eagles jersey.
Oh.
So what team is Dr. Dan Ratner will be rooting for?
I want Dan to put a Cowboys jersey.
Listen, we have to do this as an experiment. Game. But listen, you're never going to get me to root for the Cowboys legitimately. So
he's not going to.
But we can pick other teams, and let's experiment with this.
Kansas City. I could see you rooting for Kansas City.
It's not too far from Cleveland.
Champions.
Yeah, but it's like a bandwagon thing with
Detroit. Let's see
Detroit.
if Detroit falls apart.
I'm sorry, Detroit. I might be rooting for you. I'm sorry.
I root for Detroit just because they haven't won in years, and I feel
I
bad.
like an underdog.
Did anybody watch, by the way, not to change the title, the Barry Sanders documentary that's on Amazon Prime?
Oh,
I haven't watched it. Good or bad?
It's awesome.
I mean, that sounds amazing.
And then on Apple TV, the Beastie Boys documentary.
I want to watch that for sure.
Sports,
I'm a big beast. I told you guys to watch the University of Florida Urban Meyer documentary,
the Swamp Kings, or
loved it. It was unbelievable.
Must see TV.
I just don't like Urban Meyer.
You got to watch it.
He doesn't like Urban Meyer almost as much as he doesn't like Noah Brown. I'm sorry, I had to say it. I'm kidding.
He doesn't like Noah
sending
Brown.
him a DeAndre Swift jersey.
No, it's a trigger.
And
we're all about the triggers here.
And I'm sending a Kyrie Murray jersey to Ross.
I like Kyrie Murray.
I mean, you're the only one who likes him.
I like him just because everybody signed him off this year. They said he should have picked baseball, and he's playing. Now he's having a great year.
I want to watch this footage again. We should watch it together. All
Greg,
right, guys.
Play it again.
We got to wrap up for today. We will be back here same time next week.
Yeah.
Thursdays, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. We're here to talk strategy. It's go time now. You got to get it done, so pay attention. Casey and Ross will be here on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, telling you about waiver wire pickups. Now's the time, guys. You got to pounce. It's been great spending time with you, and I look forward to the same time next week. Thanks, guys.